You're going to be hearing that sound a lot in this video, which is fine by me. I think it's lovely. It's like sonar, but cute. Aren't you just the cutest little blob of tentacle fungus anyone has ever seen? Yeah, probably just me. Anyway, welcome to a new snapshot from Minecraft 1.17. The big addition here are the Sculk sensors. Again, something that was teased during the Minecraft Live event. And the big thing with those is it seemed like they could facilitate wireless redstone. And they can, and we'll get to it in a little bit. But let's start off with the basics first. So this cute little blob of tentacle fungus is a Sculk sensor. Right now, you can only get it in the creative menu, but later on, I know you'll be able to find it at least in the deep, dark cave biomes where you'll find the warden, because, I don't know, they're the same species or something like that. So as I walk around it, you notice that it'll send these particle effects to the Sculk sensor, and then the Sculk sensor illuminates, makes the sound, and you can see the particle effects coming off of it. It has an 8-block radius where it can detect vibrations. So a vibration is pretty much any form of movement except for sneaking. So if you want to get by one of these and not have it detect your presence, you can sneak around, but as soon as you go into walking or running, it'll start to detect you. So you can use it to set traps, things like that. Anyway, I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of uses that people are going to figure out over the coming weeks, months, years, etc. The block that you break it with, it's another use for a hoe, ladies and gentlemen. Incredible how useful hoes have become in the recent updates. So there we go. Place it back down again, so you'll be able to harvest it when you find it in the deep dark and you come across it. You can waterlog it, and it'll still detect vibrations from you walking around. As for how you're going to output that into a redstone signal, I guess you'll have to do something like underneath it. But if you're underwater and you break blocks, you break kelp next to the Sculk sensor, it can detect that and output a redstone signal from it. So how does the redstone signal output actually work? So you have the 8-block radius, and the stronger the vibration, the more the signal is going to output proportional to that. So if I'm here and I jump, it's going to detect it, but it's not going to output a very big signal. You'll see that the redstone only illuminates a couple blocks. On the other hand, if I come into the center here and I jump, you'll see it's a strong signal, and it'll go all the way out to the edge. So it's just the closer that the vibration is in proximity to the Sculk sensor, the more powerful the output. And that can be any vibration at all, whether I place down another Sculk sensor next to it and break it. If I do it out here, it treats all those actions the same, and it just bases the outputting signal on the proximity that it's detecting it from. I'm sure you've also noticed that once it reads the signal and activates, it stays on for a couple seconds, and during that time, it can't read any other vibrations that are happening within the 8-block radius. So say there was a trap, you could like activate it by breaking a block, and then you could run by without it detecting you running by. So there are ways to kind of get around it. Also, fun fact is that, see those little pings to the Sculk sensor as I'm running around? Those travel at 1 block per tick, which means that in Minecraft, it's now official. The speed of sound is 20 meters per second. Cool, interesting, fun fact there. All right, look, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jardon, I mean, I guess it's kind of cool that the Sculk sensors can detect when I walk around and output a redstone signal. I can make automatic doors, but what if I want to specifically blow up my friend when he steals the armor off my armor stand? Can it detect a specific kind of action? And the answer is yes, of course. They thought of that. So when you put a comparator next to a Sculk sensor, it makes it so it's not just sending out a signal every time that's the same based on the proximity to the Sculk sensor. Instead, the signal strength is based upon the action that's performed. So as long as I'm doing whatever that action is inside of the 8-block radius that the Sculk sensor can detect, it's going to output the same signal through the comparator. So walking right now, that just outputs a strength level of 1. So you'll see only this one illuminates here. Now these are all pre-programmed in. I can actually put the table on the screen if you're interested in seeing what action corresponds to what level of comparator output. If I jump, wait for it to reset, that's an output strength of 5. If because I should be shifting between all these actions. If I open the chest, that outputs all the way out to 9, I think that is. And the closing the chest, if I leave it open, wait for it to reset, that also outputs to 9 as well. Let me take these items out of here. So like I mentioned, oh yeah, I want to blow up my friend if he steals stuff from my armor stand. Well, if I put something on the armor stand here, then you'll notice it outputs a signal strength of 9. So you could rig something up so that when that signal strength is output, TNT goes kaboom or something. If I break a block, you'll notice that's actually a signal strength all the way out to, I think that's 13 down there, because it goes to a max of 15 on the end. If I then place the water down inside, you'll notice that outputs to a signal strength of 12. So it's just all these different actions. Lighting flint and steel on the ground, that's also a signal strength of 12. So again, they're all pre-programmed in, so you can kind of reference that table so that if you're trying to design a specific thing to trigger based on an action, you'll just know how to line it up, where to have your output from your comparator. And then the maximum, at least one of the maximums, is lightning. So that outputs all the way to max signal strength of 15. If you want to have some action that gets detected and not output directly by the lightning rod, but by a Sculk sensor that's detecting the lightning rod being hit. Something to keep in mind if you're doing any redstone related things with the Sculk sensor is that sometimes the output of what you're trying to do will re-trigger the Sculk sensor. So if you're trying to have a Sculk sensor trigger a door, say for example, if I put the door down here, it's gonna keep looping. So it's actually a way to make another kind of redstone clock, actually. Bit of a noisy one that you might not enjoy too much, and kind of slow if you're looking for a faster output. But just something to think about is that the action, you might want it outside of the 8-block radius, unless your goal is to have it kind of just infinitely looping as a clock. So anyway, we'll stop this now, so you don't have to keep listening to it. All right, once again, I know exactly what you're thinking. Man, these things just go off all the time. What if I don't want them going off every 2 seconds as I'm walking around them? Can't I just target a very specific location for them to read if something is going on? And the answer is yes. Of course you can. And that's where wool occlusion comes in. That is the official name, wool occlusion. So now, look at this. It has no idea that I'm over here because it's just nice and tucked in behind the wool blanket that is the wool block. See, so even though I'm right here, I'm doing things. I'm jumping. I'm making all kinds of crazy noise. I'm putting down another Sculk sensor. It can't see it. It can't see it. It can only see it if I come over to the other side. And even though like I'm on the other side of 2 blocks over here, it knows I'm here. It can read through it because of course, you know, sound travels faster through solid objects. Not in Minecraft, there's no difference, but in the real world that actually is how it be. But we come over to the other side and then all of a sudden it has no idea. And if I want to target that even more, I can put down more wool blocks and it'll isolate the areas that'll actually read even further. And you'll notice when I actually place the wool blocks down, wool blocks are they're omitted from being read as blocks being placed or destroyed. They're kind of their own special thing that just doesn't interact with Sculk sensors. So thanks to Henzoid, we've got a very nice, helpful diagram as to all the different types of wool occlusion possibilities, at least in 2 dimensions that we have. So this is the Sculk sensor's detection range on its own Y level. So even though like this is, you know, one below it, like if I grab a block, place it down here, it'll detect it. It won't detect it here. So this is the full range that a Sculk sensor can detect around itself on its own Y level. On the other hand, if you put one wool block here behind it, it's interesting. It doesn't just do a, you know, straight up 45-degree line all the way through. It occludes this as well. And there actually seems to be a strange like north, south, east, west kind of pre-programming into the way that it occludes various directions because it's not just the 45-degree all the way out, but then you put it there and it'll read it. On the other hand here, we got a couple, so it gets rid of half of the detection range. And again, you'll notice the interesting, like over 2, and then over 2 again, rather than it just being the 45 degrees. And then, again, this is how it's a north, south, east, west thing, is because for some reason here, though, when you have the wool on either side, it won't detect that. It won't detect a block put right there. It won't detect a block put right there, but it will detect it there. Whereas on the other hand, when you have it detecting on the side, with these sidewall blocks, it will detect right here. So all directions are not treated equally, interestingly enough. And over here, let's see, we're pointing west. So east-west has like more detection range than north-south, which doesn't detect the blocks immediately 45 degrees away when you have the wool around it. So bit strange. And then also you can just completely isolate a particular direction with the 3 wool blocks over here. Again, though, if you spun this 45 degrees, then say you could flip the green and the red here essentially, and you get this extra detection versus it just being, not including that. Anyway, I hope you're following what I'm saying. It's just an interesting little phenomena with these things. And of course, if you put the wool all the way around it, it's not going to detect anything that's been placed, at least on its own Y level. And then, yes, there is also wool occlusion that can take place if you put wool further out. So after 3 blocks away from the Sculk sensor, the wool doesn't do anything anymore. But if you put it 1 block away or 2 blocks away, then it will still have at least some sort of effect on the detection range. So the way that this wool is set up right now, again, all the green are places that it'll detect a signal. And if I put anything in the red, then it won't. But then, of course, you have to add in the 3rd dimension here, which it gets a little bit complicated to map out if like making parts of the sphere red glass versus green glass. But this is the true detection range of a Sculk sensor. It is an 8-block radius in 3 dimensions. So you can put the wool like up here, and that would read out a particular surface segment and cross-section or conical section of the sphere, so you can get more complex with it. This is just, for the simple 2D illustration, how it works, but you do have to consider the 3rd dimension. So if you have your Sculk sensor floating in the sky and you put wool directly next to it, it's more like it's gonna block out this conical section of detection. Cool. Okay. Sorry to go and make it more complicated for you, but I had to mention that. Thank you again, Henzoid, for making this delightful demonstration. That was very, very helpful. Okay. Another thing to note: Sculk sensors do not feed into other Sculk sensors. That was my biggest misconception going into this. I thought that they could chain so that, like, if this one detected a signal, it would pass it to that one, and it would pass it to that one, and then you could have the redstone signal output at the very end of the chain, and that's how wireless redstone will work. It's not. Sculks do not detect block updates or vibrations from another Sculk. They're exempt, kind of like wool. So even though they're making a sound, it's not something that's readable by the other Sculks, even though this is within the 8-block range of detection. So what you have to do for wireless redstone instead is you have to have the Sculk performing an action on a block that then is readable by another Sculk. So it's kind of a 2-step thing. So if I activate the button here, it's going to activate the Sculk, which activates the piston, and then that Sculk reads the piston, and then the chain repeats until the door opens at the end. So it's very fast transmission. You just have to have that 2-step process. And it doesn't have to be a piston. You could do it with a trapdoor. You could do it with anything that creates a vibration when the redstone signal is activated, and then again that chains. And you can chain it in whatever vertical, straight up. You can chain it at a 45-degree angle. You can chain it like this. But the thing to note about it is we referenced it with that iron door repeating clock over there. You have to make sure that the block that is being affected is not within the range of the Sculk sensor that comes before it. So say I bring the Sculk sensor back by 1, right? And then I add the piston to it here. What's going to happen is we're going to get this infinite loop. Because this piston retracts, then this one's already off cooldown. It detects, it activates the piston, activates this one, goes back to the first. So you have to make sure that you are using the full 8-block detection range, and that your second iteration of your wireless stair step is outside of that 8-block range, so that it's not just repeating over and over. Otherwise you get that infinite loop, which is, again, something I was like, wait, how do I deal with this the first time? But again, just make sure that your action is outside of the first or the prior Sculk sensor's radius. But once you have it, you can just kind of keep repeating, and it'll go all the way up and do your thing. Open the door at the end. I'm sure there are much more exciting outcomes than just opening a door. But there you have it. That's sort of the basics of the Sculk sensors. I'm sure that the things people will use these for and make are far beyond what I can comprehend or even think of right now. But that covers most of it. So, yeah, cool. Hopefully you found that helpful. It's not the only thing with this snapshot. It's just kind of the main thing. So make sure you like the video. I forgot to mention that as our sponsor in the very beginning. But real quick, let me just back out to the main menu and I'll show you the other one remaining thing. So we've also got dripstone caves that have kind of sort of been added to the game. So what you need to do if you want to see the dripstone caves, obviously the blocks were added in the last snapshot, but now they can kind of generate naturally. So you want to go into the more world option, set it to a single biome world, customize, and then you can choose dripstone cave right here. And then you can create the world, and it's kind of naturally generating dripstone caves. I say kind of because they still have to overwrite the entire terrain gen system underground so that you get like the big caves. But for now, it just takes the existing cave types and it'll throw the dripstone features into them. Look at that absolute unit of a dripstone block stalactite right there. That's pretty cool. But again, it's going to look different when it's officially rolled out because we will have different cave types and big giant open caverns and things that don't currently exist within the terrain generator that Minecraft is currently using. But if you want to check it out, this is the way that you can do that. This is the way. But that leads me to the final thing about this snapshot, which is pure speculation, but that what they did, a little change note log thing, is they said they removed a server setting for max world height, which I guess makes it so that no longer on a server with new 1.17 snapshots can you set it so that there is a max build height under 256. The speculation, of course, is that they might be increasing the world height because they've always said that even if you're on the tallest mountain that generates in the game, you should still have room to build a tall structure on top of it. And the thing is, if they make it so that caves go way, way, way deeper and mountains go way, way, way taller, you might start approaching that world cap, even if it doesn't hit it with 256 with the natural terrain generation, it might get close and then you just wouldn't be able to build a big, tall structure on top of the mountain. It might be coming. It might be coming. That's all I'm saying. And that it's hinting towards that. Again, it's pure speculation. Nothing confirmed yet. But the signs they're pointing in that direction. And I'm excited about it, quite frankly. So we shall see. But just thought I'd mention that. It would make sense. We're going to have the gigantic caves. You're going to have the deep dark, which has to be like way low for it to be dramatic. So, yep. Okay, pretty cool stuff. Thanks for watching. Once again, make sure to like if you liked. Check out the playlist if you want to catch more Minecraft update-related stuff with the 1.17 snapshot. Subscribe to stay tuned for it. Hit the bell even if you're already subbed. And you can check out the last Minecraft update like over there. You can click the end screen and also check out the latest Mayor Music upload. Things like that if you want some tunes. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.